This is part of the long queues for the fuel crisis in Livingstone. The situation has been going on for some time now, negatively affecting parts of the tourist capital's economy, including tourism activities. The stranded motorists in Livingstone have said the fuel crisis, which has gripped on the country, is as a result of the poor administration by the Patriotic Front government. They say the situation, which has come at a time when Zambia's economy is already ailing, calls for quick intervention to save the little resources remaining from the high cost of living, compounded by the coronavirus.
Please, we appeal to the government. If they have failed, they don't refuse someone to resign. They can say we have failed and we are resigning. Exactly. Because all we want is better Zambia. Exactly. All along, we have been living a very, very nice life. But from the time this PF government has taken over, everything is more or less like dictating in the way they want. Of which, as youths now, we are being tortured. We can look even the way we are standing here. 3/4 of us, we are just youths here, who are trying to scratch and do to earn our means. But when there is no fuel for us to do our businesses, then what kind of country are we? No, we say no to this, and we say shame to this government. Let them do something.
One of the motorists queuing up for petrol, which is only available at one of the 8 filling stations, is Livingstone Tourism Association Chairman Rodney Sikomba, who says such queues are a breeding site for the COVID-19.
When are we going to make money? When are we going to feed our families? When are we going to social distance? Because of the queuing up, now we're even putting our people's lives at risk. We already know that COVID is high, but now, because of the queuing up, we can't even social distance. When you physically distance, you find that you lose your slot on the queue. So people are bumper to bumper, which is not good. And I'm hoping that this situation is contained in the shortest possible time.
On the other hand, former Livingstone District Commissioner Paul Sensele is calling on President Edgar Lungu to save his face and that of his government by firing Energy Minister Matthew Nkoa.
Have you seen the minister, himself, the minister, trying to address this? I don't know whether he's still on audit, the Christmas audit or New Year audit. The situation is becoming more worse and worse. What can we do? When we talk, they will just send cadres and beat you. What kind of a country is this? It's unfortunate we are in this situation. But it's only 6 months from now. You Zambian can make a decision and declare this. If the minister cannot talk, you will speak through the ballot paper. Permanent.
Some of the drivers joined these queues as early as 5 in the morning, and the thought that they would drive away with the fuel after hours of waiting is not guaranteed. The government has, however, remained confident that the situation will soon be contained, but time is not on their side as motorists are running out of patience. Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News.
Despite efforts being made by the Republican President Hakainde Hichilema to put to an end cadarism in the country, some individuals don't seem to be abiding by the president's directive and want to take matters into their own hands. The United Party for National Development youth leader Gilbert Luswaniso was heard inciting that the youths will beat up any individual who will personally be insulting the president without even having to take the matter to the police. Since the directive, videos of youths inciting violence have been seen, the latest where a cadre beat up Kasama District Commissioner and another video of some cadres inciting violence have been witnessed.
So, mairo kokwina mumfwena tumkamuku ipokelele tuleisa soko kwi era mumwabene ba umuro nga mwalite mwe chikuru achenu mwikale kula salangana popena bantu mukatoleshe chikuru achenu turenda mule waka support mofine munishi mwiratu beresha era nawe na baranda choice command kufuma kuri wa minister nawe ne otwala kuwira pono kuwira olesa mukura turulingo karurushiro.
Police spokesperson Ray Hamonga has warned that the police will not hesitate to deal with any person who will decide to take matters in their own hands.
The police is encouraging the rule of law. So in an instance where somebody is saying otherwise, we will definitely act with such a person. So the police is encouraging the rule of law. If people have challenges with anything regards to criminal matters, they can come and report to the police so that the police can take appropriate action.
With Zambia having enjoyed peace for over 57 years, is violence the way to punish those who will decide to break the law? Only time will tell. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Kaonongeka kuti vatitandize musanga vawotanswara chisona vatitandiza pa right time. So mwamene tinachita report pa Monday koma mpaka this time vikalu still vienda vi and nyumba yonse inunga mwamene mwaonera so still safe hapa. So dandaulamenti nani yakuti ngati tapereka report tifuna vazititandiza mwa musanga. Kuyanganira kuti umoyo watu uli pa risk ngati vasova tichitikira pa nyumba. Ndiye dandaulamene nili nayo.
System ni yakudala. So ifuniko chenjiwa. Kuchosa mwenye pipe ni yakudala. So tuina program tubawuza tuzapasa drama kuyambirira next month February so that bakasebenzerepo kuchosa yonse mapipe anofaka mu nyumba. That's why hapa mukana ma problems ya chafwasa twabwera. So aya ni ma solution chape ya pafupi. So sorting a problem yanu yonse tifuniko kuchosa mapipe yakudala yamene manafaka permanent karibu bado.
So in-house we've been replacing with our internal resources, using our budget, but just running with it to ensure that we cope with the rate at which the failures are happening has been quite challenging. And arising from the previous ministerial visit, we actually submitted a detailed bill of quantities, identifying the areas section by section. So the interventions are ranging from 500,000 kwacha, 600, and we put a total of about 3 million kwacha, which your office affirmed that as resources are made available, be supported.
Simply looks like a place where disposable waste is supposed to be disposed of when actually it is not. During their usual inspections, Lusaka City Council Public Health Committee discovered about 5 Chinese poultry farms that have allegedly been selling rotten chickens to women in Lusaka. One of the 5 Chinese farms that has been abolished in the Public Health Act has allegedly been identified as Happy Brothers. Lusaka City Council Public Health Committee Chairperson Daniel Mwewa says he's saddened to learn of these acts.
A very bad practice by most farmers and farms which are rearing chickens in Lusaka. So what is currently happening is that in these farms, if they have chickens which die, even at 3 weeks, 2 weeks, or what, they are not disposing of these chickens. So now what they are doing is they will just cut off the head and put the chickens in the fridge. And then there are some women now from all over Lusaka district, nearby Chilanga and other places who are coming to buy. So now what they are doing is in the morning they are selling, and in the afternoon they are selling. But again, what is worrying is that most of the chickens that they are selling, they have already gone bad. They are rotten. So we discovered, I think we came across some, I think about 15 or 10 marketeers.
Mr. Mwawa says the 5 have abolished the act that states that chickens that die on their own are supposed to be disposed of by legally licensed entity.
The chickens which have already gone bad. So through them, I think we managed to trace about 5 farms where this bad trend is taking place. But unfortunately, we've not managed to get hold of the farm manager, and the owner of this farm. They have actually disappeared. They've run away from us. So this is a very bad trend. These farmers, they are abrogating the Public Health Act, because what is supposed to be done whenever a chicken dies, they are supposed to subscribe to Lusaka City Council. If
chickens bought rotten are not fit for human consumption. Efforts to get a comment from Happy Brothers proved futile by broadcast time. This reporter is following up this story. Blessings Chakwila, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Following the heavy rainfall in the past weeks, some drainage structures in Kalingalinga compound of Munali constituency near Alikinkata Road are near falling apart, regardless them being constructed about a year ago. This development has been attributed to poor construction, and concerned residents have called on the local council to address the issue, which has affected nearby businesses. One of the affected business owners explained in an interview with Camnet TV.
Yati because nako damage my business yati mamotoka si applicable. No problem is kamba pa kwenye go yati. Bezbana kumambo. Bana shinde rafaka potet. Manje problem ipezeka. Bana package ya mbili mani. So yambo dilika napanga damage na break. So betachika kwa kama tires na stones kuma motoka ya safikie kwenye damage kwa mara. So tipemba baendeshe kwa because yeye ndio na drainage na kama baendeshe kwa obora kutenga banana.
Meanwhile, Kalingalinga Ward 6 Councillor Mkobesa Nyoni has assured business owners that the issue will be addressed as he engages the company in charge of constructions in the area.
A business person operating along Alikinkata to go and show me the problem at their workplace. So I went there, I checked it out. It's quite worrisome. From the look of the lane, it seems like the compacting of the soil was poorly done. Hence the problem. So we are appealing to the relevant authorities to come to our aid before the problem is escalated. From what I saw, the cracks are extending further and further. So before we lose a life or something negative happens to us, let us ensure that we sort out the problem.
He has further expressed concern that if the situation is left unchecked, many businesses will be negatively affected, hence the need for an urgent action. Alex Shimba, Camnet News, in Lusaka.
Introducing Kapi Lodges Kafiwe, a beautiful place to spend your night. At Kapi Lodges, we have affordable and comfortable rooms to meet your expectations. We are located along Kafiwe Road, Shimabala area. For more details, contact us on +260 979 476307 or +260 976 057123 or +260 764 700 003. Email capilodges@gmail.com. Capi Lodges, my second comfort, home.
It's a January back-to-school promotion bonanza at Darren Bay. Take advantage of our massive price discounts and turn your wonderful school-going kids into stars. With a cornrows hairstyle going at only 30 kwacha for kids below 13 years and 50 kwacha for kids above 13 years, your child is guaranteed that neat and trusted, classy look. This curly, knotless hairstyle is going for as little as 150 kwacha from as high as 200 kwacha, wigs included. Now that's a classy saving. The sleek ponytail going at 80 kwacha from 120 kwacha makes your little one look like a true princess. Gift your pretty one with this lovely natural twist for as low as 60 kwacha from 100 kwacha, beads included. Now that's a cute saving. Your princess will look stunning in this curly ponytail at only 90 kwacha from the original 110 kwacha. Now that is a great deal. You will find us along Mossy Road, 4th Close, on the left after Kalikiliki Police Post in Ibex Hill, Lusaka. We are open from 0720 to 17 hours, 7 days a week. Call us for appointment bookings on 0772 870588 or WhatsApp on 0972 049213. Darren B, a touch of class.
Thank you very much. You are still watching Camnet TV, and this is the Lunchtime Cafe, and today we are privileged. We do have a very interesting panel that is going to be discussing issues to do with the water challenges in this country. Now, I do have the Zambia Water and Sanitation Engineering and Allied Workers Union of Zambia that are in the studios with me to help me discuss this very important topic. I do have the Secretary General himself, who is on my far left, and this is Mr. Moses Mwale. Next to Mr. Mwale, we do have Mr. Mofia Chingwe, who is the Treasurer General, and also right next to me is Mr. Mayowa Charlton, who is the Deputy General Secretary at the Zambia Water and Sanitation Engineering and Allied Workers Union. So we're here to discuss issues to do with the challenges that the water sector is faced with, generally issues in the water sector. Gentlemen, thank you very much for making it to Camnet TV. Welcome to this interview.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Let's start with the union itself. Tell us about the Zambia Water and Sanitation Engineering and Allied Workers Union.
Yes, the Zambia Water and Sanitation Engineering is coming from Zulao, the Zambia United Union of Local Authorities. I think if you remember when the water department in the city council separated to form commercial utilities in 1997, when Lusaka Water was formed in 1998, I think it was also imperative that the employees that represented staff in the water sector should also have a union. So the Zambia Water and Sanitation Engineering and Allied Workers Union is a union that represents the unionized employees in the water sector.
Now, how many people does this union represent in this particular sector, and what are the conditions of service?
The Zambia Water and Sanitation, in short, ZAUSEAO, we represent close to 4,000 employees in the water sector in 11 water utilities. And the conditions of service, I think most of the conditions of service leave much to be desired, especially in the water utilities that are far from the capital city. If you talk about Luapula Water and Storage, Western Water, Southern Water, I think there are a number of issues regarding conditions of service that really needs to be addressed. And the government really needs to be aware, especially the Ministry of Labor, especially issues to do with safety.
Now, as a union, what are you doing to try and see that the conditions of service are brought to something near what you would love to see?
The major legal platform which the union has with the managements or these companies that we have a recognition agreement with is the bargaining process. And the bargaining process does only look at salary increment and conditions of service. There are a number of issues which surround the conditions of service, and these have been brought to the attention of management on different forums, managements of these different water utilities. So a number of issues I think haven't been addressed, particularly the personal protective equipment, especially in the sanitation departments. So there are a lot of issues that we need to attend to, and these water utilities, like I've mentioned, there are 11. So most of them are actually responding differently to the bargaining process as we engage them.
I know you say they are responding differently. How are most of them responding to issues like PPE? These are serious issues like conditions of service. As you engage them, what is their response really? What do they say?
Particularly to talk about PPE, I think the managements of these water utilities are aware that that is a legal requirement under the Factories Act. And especially that most of our members, because just to take you back, the water utilities is mainly an engineering institution. So you find that it is a requirement that most of our members who are engaged mainly in engineering works which expose them to some hazards and risks that may endanger their lives and health are supposed to be fully equipped in personal protective equipment. And these managements are aware. But we have on the ground and we have on record water utilities that have neglected this aspect. And we have on record some water utilities where we have lost some employees in the process of discharging their service due to lack of adequate personal protective equipment. So the response, like I've mentioned, some water utilities are complying, a number of them are not complying.
Now, what could be the problem? Why would a water utility company that knows that this is a legal requirement not comply with having PPE for their workers?
The major excuse that we have received from the managements of these water utilities points to the financial viability of the institution for them to procure this personal protective equipment, which ranges from the work suits and to safety boots and many other things. You find that in some conditions of service, they are supposed to procure twice a year. But you find that in some water utilities, sometimes years go by, 2 years there is no proper PPE, and most of them the excuses has been the financial capacity of the institution. That has been a major crime. So you find that most of our members are exposed.
Okay. Now, apart from the issue of PPE, what are some of the major challenges that are faced in this particular sector?
Yes, I think the major challenges, the PPE points to our members, the represented staff. But if you ask about the sector, the water sector, there are a number of challenges that needs to be addressed, starting from the government debt. I think the government institutions are owing these water utilities colossal sums of money in unremitted amounts in terms of what they consume. And if the government can make a deliberate move to ensure that this debt is actually attended to and these water utilities are paid, I think that will be a step in the right direction in terms of seeing these water utilities perform. The other major issue is the non-revenue water. I think there is no water utility that is rated below 40% in terms of non-revenue water. But you find that the benchmark, the recommended benchmark is 25% in the NWASCO report. But most of the water utilities are operating above 40% in terms of non-revenue water. And this points to the dilapidated infrastructure, which includes the network. So, and one of the major solutions and the quick intervention to that is to revise the tariff. Because the water utility has never revised since 2019. So this is one of the major challenges. I think that is the other issue is the NWASCO license fees. Yes, they are quite exorbitant, and these fees are actually deducted based on the billing, 2% of the billing. Despite adjustments, the NWASCO will ensure that they get the 2% of what they have billed and not what the water utility has collected. This is a serious drain in this sector, and it is making it very difficult for the sector to move forward. And I think the other issue is, like I alluded to, I think lack of materials also. Most of these water utilities, you find that if you visit their stores, you find that most of them, they don't have materials to work. And the community, the citizens will be crying that there is no water in this area, there are leakages, the water is just, seeping out, yet we reported, but they are not responding on time. What is happening behind the curtains is that the company will be running up and down, trying to look for materials to attend to those leakages. And this is left unsaid by management on platforms like this one. But as a union, we can indicate, because there's our members who are supposed to work on this. Most water utilities are failing to procure materials because they don't have the financial capacity to do that.
Mr. Chingwe, you seem to be agreeing with the SG as regards most of the challenges. What other challenges are faced in this particular sector?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Especially having come from the financial sector, actually, I just want to re-emphasize what the General Secretary actually has alluded to. The tariff adjustment actually has posed a major challenge to most of these, to all of them, to all these water utilities, in that the tariffs that are prevailing currently are not cost reflective. As you may be aware, this the last adjustment was made in 2019, and they are no longer cost reflective. Economics of scale have changed. You'd find that most of these chemicals that are being utilized in the water sector for the treatment of water are imported, and if you look at the exchange rate at the moment, it is not favoring those imports. If you talk of the network expansion, all that, we are 80% of what we are using in the production of water, we are using power, and their tariffs for power has always been adjusted upwards, leaving the tariff for water static. So this has been a major challenge in that most of the things that we have alluded to, including the purchase of materials, PPE and all that, even the conditions of service for the employees, are always pointing to the fact that the water utilities are not making enough income as a result of those tariffs that are low. As you may be aware, Mr. Moderator, we are experiencing a scourge at the moment, the scourge of cholera. All those issues are coming as a result of these water utilities not being able to supply clean, safe and clean water as a result of, at times, maybe there is a compromise on the chemicals that are not adequate. So our appeal as a union to government through NWASCO, which is our regulator, is that they look at the issue of tariff adjustment critically, so that they actually salvage the situation at the moment. Let me also take this opportunity, Mr. Moderator, to highlight one challenge which we are facing as a union, you would find that as a result of these challenges, most of the water utility companies are not compliant in terms of actually remitting the subscription to the union. And as a result, that is hampering our efforts to make sure that our workers, our members out there are having a full representation and all that. So our appeal actually even to the various managements of these water utilities is that they expedite all the process of ensuring that after having deducted the subscriptions from our members, they make the subscriptions remittance as a priority to the union so that we continue operating.
Okay. Now, you spoke about the tariff adjustments, and you spoke also about how we have seen electricity tariffs being adjusted, but not the water tariffs. What is the procedure in the water sector of adjusting the water tariffs, and where is the glitch? Where really is the problem?
Just like the energy sector, we have the Energy Regulation Board. So do we have in the water sectors, NWASCO. They are our regulators to which these water utilities apply for water tariff adjustments. And once that is done, there is an approval process that should be done by Parliament and all that. I think that has been hampering the system. Unlike the energy itself, one day the ERB just wakes up and makes those adjustments without the approval of Parliament and all that. So in our case, I think that has been hampering us somehow.
Yes, maybe to add on that one, the regulator is collecting license fees, and they are mandated under the Constitution, the Water and Sanitation Act of 1997. The National Water Supply, NWASCO, is mandated to regulate and ensure that these water utilities are operating within the confines of their mandate, and they are supposed to deliver and ensure that they supply water that is up to the standard, and the regulator is supposed to approve the proposed tariff adjustments by these water utilities. And these water utilities are proposing the tariffs at different rates because they are operating in different environments and they have different clientele and different network in terms of customer base. So you will find out that the process is that the regulator is supposed to approve. But water being a political product, you find that the regulator doesn't seem to have the full autonomy to make the complete statement or guarantee to say we have approved. So the bureaucratic process that this process is subjected to is what is suffocating the sector. So the regulator, we are wondering as a union why they should continue to collect the license fees per month of the billing instead of what has been collected, yet the tariff adjustment has remained the same since 2020. So these other factors of the economy, I think, have improved. The energy sector has improved. I think they have increased the tariff to almost more than 100%. If you look at the fuel pump prices, they've been rising and we're revising monthly. And these water utilities are actually consumers of the fuel. They are clients to the energy sector. So attention has been paid to the energy sector, and you have ignored the water sector, hence suffocating the water sector, because for the water sector to fully operate and deliver, it also needs to depend on the energy sector as a cost driver. So I think this has been very unfair, and we wonder why NWASCO has remained, I think, silent, pointing to non-revenue water as an excuse by the government why they cannot approve the proposed tariff adjustment. To us, I think that is not really sorting out issues, because the issue of non-revenue water is quite complex. It's complicated. It cannot be sorted out in one day. Yes. So there are a lot of issues pointing to that.
Mr. Mayola, quite a number of challenges have been highlighted that the sector is faced with. As a union, which direction do we take? How do you think that these challenges that have been raised here could be addressed?
I think coming from the background of engineering, I'll start off all looking at the PPE issue. I think in some cases, some of these water utilities, they became so reluctant in procurement PPE. If you remember the time of COVID, UNICEF had come to provide. Now, since that program has started dwindling, we have seen that these water utilities have stopped paying attention. Maybe it's just to make a call to the relevant authorities, those who are in charge, and line ministries who do inspect the aspects of safety in organization. For example, I don't know, workers' compensation, also means of water itself, means of labor. Maybe they should take a deliberate move to do some inspections. In terms of tariffs, from the information that we have as a union, submissions were made as early as 2019. Now, when you look at the period from the time the tariffs were, the proposals were taken to NOASCO up to today, I think by that time the cost of operation was equal to what was submitted by then. Now, for example, I can give you an example of the production part of water. Cost of production per liter may go to 19 kwacha. Now today, at that time it was 19 kwacha when the proposal was taken to NOASCO. Now when you look at now, 2024 as we are talking, it cannot be equal to 19 kwacha. Then also the amount that is being collected from that 1 liter, you may find that maybe it's not even a half, less than a half. Then when you look at the materials that is required for maintenance, no, it's sorry to say that I think somehow relevant authorities, they have not put much effort on in terms of investment in infrastructure, investments in water utilities. You know, there are some utilities whereby they are still using asbestos pipes. Now, looking at the way the world has been evolving technology, where do you find the material for maintenance for asbestos pipes? When the world now is shifting into poly ones, and the poly ones, most of them, they are not made locally. You import. Also, we come back to what my TG was saying in terms of the exchange rate and also the inflation rate. Then, when you come down to our members, especially at this time that we have this pandemic, how do the people, for example, those under distribution, water distribution and sewerage network, how do they operate in such a difficult circumstance where the network is dilapidated, there's no PPE? And it's a call that we are making as a union to the relevant authorities to put much effort on these 3 things that we are talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is the role of these water utilities when it comes to the fight against the cholera outbreak? Yes, the cholera epidemic, I think the water utilities, or the water sector in short, playing a very instrumental role. And access to safe and clean water is paramount to alleviating waterborne related infections such as cholera. You see, like what I indicated, the government is supposed to pay much attention also to the water sector, because what happens in the water sector affects other sectors. Okay, it affects the industries, because you need water for the manufacturing industries to produce whatever they need to produce efficiently and on time. They will need water to lower for the hospitals to operate, hence lowering the health costs. So you find that if the issue of cholera is attended to at the peripheral of it, such as buying drugs, treating it, I mean, instead of working on access to safe and clean water, then you will just be going around circles. The major issue here is to ensure that citizens have access to clean and safe water. And how do we do that? We need to extend the network. How do we extend the network without a revised cost-reflective tariff?
how do we extend the network if the government is not paying these water utilities on time? So you find that these water utilities are expected to do more, yet on the other hand, you are not really helping. I think the Ministry of Water, we need to commend the efforts. We have seen the minister going around sensitizing. We have seen the donors coming on board here and there. But the major issue that needs to be addressed mainly is also the issue of tariff. Because from there, we are going to ensure that people access clean and safe water and alleviate the issue of cholera. It must start from the water sector, definitely.
Now, the water sector, as you have put it, plays a vital role in the country, even in the economy of the country. It is used in manufacturing industry and everything. Why do you think that there is not much attention that is being paid to this particular sector? Even you've said that government owes the utility a lot of money. Why do you feel that it is like this?
I think the major issue is sensitization. First, people are aware that they are supposed to pay for water. And actually, if you ask people what their priorities are, you find that water is number one, electricity needs to be second. Because water is life, as the saying goes, and sanitation is healthy. So people really prioritize to remain healthy and be sustained by having access to safe and clean water. So the reason why this is not paid attention to or prioritized by citizens is the sensitization. Also, the other issue is we need to relax the issue of politicizing the water as a product by curbing and hindering, silencing the proposals to adjust the tariffs, because people are willing to pay what they consume. But if we are going to agree to say people should be paying the old prices for water in 2024, they are paying the price for 2020 or 2019, then we are killing the sector. So I feel the issue is sensitization and also political will. We cannot depend on donors. We may not depend on management strategy. I think most of the strategies have been brought on board, but the major issue that needs to be attended to now is political will. Let the president come on board like he did to abolish the access to shallow wells, and saying they don't want to have any citizen access water and shallow wells in order to manage this epidemic, the epidemic of cholera. I think the government needs to come out also on board and say people must pay for what they are consuming. So I think it's the mainly on sensitization and political will.
Just to add on the issue of sensitization, as alluded to by my General Secretary, Mr. Moderator, you may wish to know that we are coming from a background where water in some circles was almost free. Talk about the mining townships, even some councils. In the mining townships in particular, people were literally not paying for water because it was coming as part of the conditions of service for those people who are working on the mine. So it has come as an alien thing for people to start paying for water now. Hence, the issue of sensitization must be looked at very critically. And you'd find that it's not only amongst the communities that don't want to pay for water. It cuts across, it transcends into even government institutions, because after all, those who are in government institutions are coming from the same communities. They have not prioritized water. So the critical of actually sensitizing the people on how critical safe and clean water must come out clearly, without politics or anything at all.
But do these utility companies have the capacity to provide that clean and safe drinking water? Looking at some of the challenges that you brought out, like the absolute equipment and stuff like that.
At the moment, not, because most of the infrastructure that are being used in the water sector are now dilapidated. They are coming from colonial times, maybe even since those townships were being created. And as my deputy general secretary earlier alluded to, we are still using all those old forms of infrastructure which can't stand the current situation, the situation at the moment. Even when we talk, apart from the tariff adjustment itself, I think government should also even consider funding these institutions, because the tariff adjustment alone, to some extent, can be suffocating to the, if it is cost reflective, that is, might be suffocating to the customers, the consumers themselves. So government should take up a role of actually looking into funding these institutions actually critically.
Mr. Amayoba, do you engage government on these issues as regards need to, the Secretary General had spoken about not being dependent on donors to improve this sector. What are you doing as a union to try and source for funding?
Okay, by the way, we are a new executive. So from this team that we are seeing here, we are coming up with a deliberate program of starting to engage the government through the Ministry of Water Development and also through the Ministry of Local Government. Yeah, but you know, these water utilities are coming from Ministry of Local Government into Ministry of Water Development. In most cases, these water utilities, the main shareholders are local authorities. So we have drawn up a program of which very soon it will be unveiled to the ministry. That's the Ministry of Water Development. So that we may also start advocating. Some of the issues that we were looking forward for advocacy is maybe if a government can consider, if not reducing or removing taxes on things that are needed for water sector. For example, the importation of chemicals. Maybe for the chemicals that are directly involved for the water sector, maybe if the government can try to waiver somehow the tax, and also materials, machines that are needed for the water sector. If the tax can be waived there, I think with the tariffs also being approved, we can move somewhere. Yeah, as water utilities.
Now, Mr. Mwale, I know the Deputy SG, Mr. Mayowa, has just said that this is a new executive. How would you want to, what kind of relationship would you want to have with NWASCO as you represent these your members? And also, what do you feel NWASCO is operating as effective as you would want to see them operate?
Yes, I think the relationship that we have with our social partners, such as the water utilities that we have a recognition agreement with, I think we would like to maintain a sound relationship. And as a union, we have actually indicated to these water utilities that as social partners, we want to pursue the route of dialogue in resolving most of our grievances. I think we have been to NWASCO, although we failed to meet the director on several times. We are not averse to what NWASCO is mandated to do. What we are not in support is regulations that are not sustainable. This has got nothing to do with our relationship with NWASCO. And we need to help NWASCO or to help the government as a union. We need to be factual and tell each other the truth. NWASCO's regulation on license fees is not sustainable on these water utilities or the water sector, which is suffocating. They are collecting 2% of what the water utility bills. What you may need to learn maybe about this is that if the water utility bills 60 million, for example, per month, NWASCO will get a percentage of the 60 million, which has not been collected. But what will have been collected maybe is 30 million. So from the 30 million collections, the water utility will need to pay a 2% of the 60 million. So that is unsustainable. Let NWASCO revise their regulation. Let the government intervene, because as the government is relaxing approval for the regulation, for the tariff adjustment, the other regulation is milking the water utility and making it suffocate. So the decision to be firing the MDs and managements in this water sector is not a solution. The solution is that even as we bring on board other competent management officers, we need to ensure that these water utilities are afloat. So we cannot concentrate on the peripherals, like I indicated. Let's address the disease where the infection is. NWASCO, as a regulator, must first step aside and say, we recommend, you may need to know as a union, we actually, our recommendation is that let the license fees be 1% per year, annually, not monthly. It's not sustainable. And 1% of what the water utility has collected, that would be okay. That would be a support. Okay, unlike where you are expecting the citizens to have access to clean and safe water, but we are not talking about the real infections or wounds, that what is making this water sector fail to operate. If you go to the social media, you find that a lot of citizens are hearing insults on the water sector, on the particular water utilities. They are not delivering. We have dry taps. Okay, but the real issue is that there isn't so much support. Yes.
So what you are saying is that a utility would say that they are supposed to collect 100 million in a month.
Yes, as
and then yes, and then NWASCO would get 2% of that 100 million.
Yes.
And then the picture on the ground is that the utility company does not manage to collect that particular money, but NWASCO would still want to collect the 2%, even in the less than the 100 that...
Yes, the fact actually is that the water utilities does not collect mainly 100% of what they have built. It's usually lower. And even when they have made adjustments on what they have built, NWASCO still insists to get a percentage of the total bill, ignoring the adjustments. Okay, the adjustments I'm talking about is, for example, writing off of the bad debts, and when they go on the ground and discover that these properties are not existing, even when they have built, maybe there were errors. Okay, those adjustments will not be accommodated by NWASCO, but NWASCO will say we need a percentage as required by law as a license fee, and this is collected per month. So if the water utility is collecting less, which is usually the case, less than what they have built, why paying more to NWASCO when the inputs, as the Treasurer General has indicated, are mostly imported? The chemicals are imported, machinery is imported. How will the company attend to breakdowns? How will the company respond on time to mend the leakages? Most, if you go to other water utilities, such as Northwestern, you visit some water utilities, you find that the fleet is grounded. There are no materials, they can't maintain. So how do we expect these water utilities to respond and extend network when on the other hand, we are suffocating them? So as a union, I think is a different, we are speaking from an independent view. We don't have, we are not biased, we are not siding with management, we are not siding with the government. We are the workers as a union. So this is a voice from the worker. The worker has no material, yet the regulator is collecting those huge colossal sums. At the same time, the regulator is relaxing to approve the tariff adjustment. So it's a challenge.
Your recommendation is 1% per year, from 2% per month.
Exactly.
Are you being realistic?
Very, very realistic. The reasons are what we have alluded to. The challenges of the water sector are real. Unless there is a voice or these other sectors, like what we have talked about, the government in short, will come on board and say it is not true that the inputs in the production of water and the sanitation services are imported. Then we may need to be talking about something different. The 2% of the bill is so huge. NWASCO, if there is a need to revise their conditions of service, then they need to, because you find that the day-to-day activities of supplying water is the companies. But the regulator may still need to lobby from the government, let the government play a major role to fund the regulator. How is ERB surviving? So the water sector, even the labor itself, it's labor intensive. Okay, it's costly to extend the network, to need a lot of inputs, hours, and you don't have a lot of machinery to do that. The technology that we have does not speak to the modern technology of expanding network within a short time. You find that maybe to connect 50 or 10 houses, it cannot be done in a day. You need to dig. Okay, so you find that the way ZESCO is operating and the way the water utilities or the water sector is operating are different in terms of efficiency and performance. But why should they be suffocated to that extent?
Mr. Chingwe, how can these water utilities, what strategies can they use to try and raise funds? I know that it is, as you have put it, the picture you've put it here, it is not easy. How can they survive?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, these utilities, as we have emphasized during our various engagements with them, we always have emphasized a robust approach in terms of the collections, the mechanisms they put in terms of collecting those monies to those people who are defaulting, as well as actually making sure that within the resources that are available, the resources are quite scarce at the moment. Within those resources, they are able to utilize them, to utilize them in a way that they get maximum benefit out of. Wastage in terms of various things that we hear about in terms of luxury, I think that should be minimized, should be put to a minimum, so that at least the resources that are available are being utilized maximally and efficiently before all these things that we have alluded to are put in place.
Mr. Maura, to try and help improve the conditions of service of your members, what strategies are you putting in as Zambia Water, sanitation and engineering?
I think we'll still maintain our position of advocates towards the tariff adjustment, and also advocates towards funding from government. And there's need for the government to fund these water utilities, because if they expand the network, meaning they have got a huge, they will also expand the catchment area. For example, for a small district like Chama, where, for example, the district has got maybe 30,000 residential areas, then Eastern Water is covering, let's say, 10,000 or 6,000. If the government can come in, fund, from there, the network will expand. You expect them to go to 25,000, of which by the time we are reaching the 2030 Millennium Development Goals, we'll be able to meet under water sector. And also, we'll continue advocating for tax waivers in these imported materials for the water sector. We'll also continue advocating for qualified manpower, because when you have a qualified manpower to mend the leakages, to do these other operational issues, it will be, to me, I feel it will reduce the costs. I'm coming from an engineering background. If you have an incompetent person to do a job, he will mend the leakage. Tomorrow again, you go back to the same leakage. So that's what I mean when I say we need competent personnel as well.
SG, what do you make of the decision or the move by NWASCO to extend the special regulatory supervision for Lukanga water, and also the directive to Chambeshi water supply and sanitation for non-compliance of license conditions? What do you make of this?
Yeah, for Chambeshi water, I think the NWASCO has been on the ground, I'm sure, and they are supposed to know that Chambeshi water has got challenges.
Sure.
And the environment under which Chambeshi water is also operating, you look at the clientele, you find that mostly there are no industries. So you find that, but they still need to meet these cost drivers, which are electricity and many other cost drivers. So it will be very difficult for them to pay those license fees. So that's why we are saying it will not be right to punish a water utility unfairly because they are failing to remit when in real sense the water utility is struggling financially. We have interacted with management for Chambeshi Water. We know the challenges of Chambeshi Water. So for NWASCO to move in, I think they are being heavy-handed. But there are other water utilities where as a union would recommend that certain managements should actually even be replaced. They have stayed for a long time. They are not adding value. The MD has stayed for a long time. It's not paying attention to issues of workers' welfare. You find that in some water utilities, the MD is not paying attention to issues of proper personal protective equipment, where we are able to lose some employees on site. So those are managements which the regulator should also pay attention to, and you would like to see them taking actions rather than making decisions that are only maybe benefiting the regulator. So we would love that even in those other areas, the regulator also should pay attention, because as a union, I think we have come out on board. So as regards Lukanga Water, I think Lukanga Water, I wouldn't say much about the decision that has been made, because we are yet to consult and understand the challenges that they are facing. But if it has got to do with the extension, you said of the license?
The regulatory supervision.
Yeah, I think it's a welcome move. These water utilities are struggling, they have got their own challenges. So as they are supervising and coming on board to be a bit punitive, I think on the other hand, they also need to see if the conditions that have been put on the table for these water utilities to meet, they are able to do that. Because how do you expect the water utility to deliver when you last revised their tariff in 2019 and this is 2024?
Based on that, do you feel that the regulator really appreciates the challenges that the sector, the utilities are faced with in the sector, considering what you termed as exorbitant license fees, and also now not appreciating the challenges that the utilities themselves are facing?
We have challenges to agree to the fact that maybe the regulator appreciates the challenges, because we feel the regulator is mainly on the part of supervision, taking punitive measures and collecting the license fees. And they are relaxed on the part of sustainability. We have seen the Millennium Challenge, donor aid, the American government coming in and investing into, for example, Lusaka Water, which was the major beneficiary of the Millennium Challenge account, and also a few other sectors. So like we are saying, we cannot entirely depend on the donor, but we expect the regulator, which is the eyes of the government, to tell the government the truth, that these are the real challenges that are faced by the water utility. If it is possible, let the regulator downscale in terms of the labor. If they are not able to sustain themselves by what we recommend can sustain them as a regulator, unless they prove to the government that as a regulator they really need these critical functions in terms of jobs and positions in that sector, in that organization, the NWASCO. Otherwise, we would go to an extent of recommending downsizing if the issue of labor is the major cost why they want to punish the water utilities. So we feel the regulator is not paying attention. We would love that the regulator is regulated by the government. At the same time, we are not just on NWASCO. We have said the government itself, these government institutions must liquidate the debt. Let these government institutions pay what they are owing these water utilities. If they are expecting the citizens to have access to clean and safe water and address the issue of cholera, let the government take a first step and pay these water utilities. So you cannot just make demands for these water utilities to put tanks in peri-urban areas and supply this water, this treated water. It's being produced at a cost. The machines cannot run without electricity. And yet you have reversed the electricity tariffs. The water that needs to be supplied must be treated and safe in this period of cholera. But you cannot supply water that is not treated, because we need chemicals and chlorine gas needs to be imported. Okay, so these are real cost challenges which these water utilities are facing. So it is time that the government and the regulator addresses these matters without having political specs.
Mr. Chingwe, your response also to the issue of the regulator and appreciating the challenges faced by the utilities.
For us as a union, at times we feel that the regulator itself, having just been interested in collecting whatever it collects from the water utilities, has no interest at all in the operations of these utilities. Because had they had that interest, most of these challenges that we have mentioned here could have been a thing of the past. Yes. I point to the fact that, and it was earlier talked about by my General Secretary, where they have cited a company like Chambesh Water, which operates under very difficult circumstances. And yet, they are leaving other water utility companies which are in areas where they're supposed to be thriving. Because you'd find that we have some companies that are operating in the areas where they're even mines, and yet they're not performing, owing to the fact that the management systems, the management systems in those companies leave much to be desired. We as a union would want a situation where even the aspect of management in those utilities are being looked into critically by these water utility companies. Do we have qualified managers in those utilities? Let's look critically in how much they have been handling the welfare of the employees in those various utilities. Are they qualified enough, these managers, to actually propel these companies to high heights? I think those aspects have been ignored by the regulator. The major interest has just been to collect, because they are being given that the license fees are being given as a priority in those sectors. So in a nutshell, Mr. Moderator, I think the regulator, which is NWASCO, for me, I would even recommend that maybe it is disbanded and maybe allocate its function to the local authority, because it has just been a duplicate where there's some kind of personal benefit out of these utilities.
Now, Mr. Mayowa, the issue of non-revenue water remains one of the major problems that the water utilities are facing, and it has come out in our discourse here. What do you think is a lasting solution to this particular problem?
I think I made mention when we started the program that I'm coming from an engineering background. I worked under maintenance for certain utilities for close to 11 years. So I understand the non-revenue. It goes back to the dilapidated network systems. Starting from the distribution lines up to metering sections there. The system, most of the systems from these water utilities are dilapidated. It calls back for investment. There's serious need of investment in the water sector. Once investment in the water sector is done, I think we can be here talking about something else. Even we as a union, we sometimes find it difficult when we are trying to improve the conditions of service for our members. Why? When you look at the way the utility is operating, the way the system is, the network system, they are not correlating. At the end of the day, it's our members that suffer. I can give an example We have got some utilities where we have gone for more than 4 years without any salary increment. Owing to the fact that apart from the tariffs, the system is dilapidated, non-revenue is high. Non-revenue, how you produce 100%, 50% goes to the waste, 50%, that's what you bill. Then from the 50% that you bill again, there's those other operation costs that are high. So it's challenging, it's a little bit challenging, and we will continue calling upon government to come in and assist these water utilities. Yeah. Then just to give a highlight of how the tariff procedure is done. No, these water utilities, they have meetings where they advocate for a tariff adjustment. Once those meetings are done with the stakeholders and the shareholders, then it is approved by those two groups. That's when they submit to NOASCO. So sometimes we find it a challenge where the regulator delays or delays in terms of approving something that them, the consumers, they have accepted. I think you understand that. Sure. The consumers, they have sat with the supplier, they have agreed on the price, then they take to the regulator puts aside. Unless if the problem was with the consumers, maybe they as a union are going to have difficulties. Now that the consumers and the suppliers, they have agreed, I think there is no problem there. Sure.
As we come to the end of this interview, Mr. Mwale, what are your concluding remarks?
Yes, I think our concluding remarks are that whatever is being discussed here as a challenge which the water sector is facing results into poor conditions of service for our members. And that is our drive. Because as a union, as a trade union, we are representing our represented staff, and most of our members are working under very strenuous conditions and poor conditions of service. And most of the negotiations, I may need to mention to you that in some water utilities, we have actually entered the deadlock, despite the workers demanding for a reasonable adjustment or revision of the conditions of service. The water utilities have maintained the position of status quo of poor conditions of service, pointing to the fact that the government has not awarded the tariff adjustment. And apart from the conditions of service, because we know labor is also a critical factor of production, but there are also issues to do with the proper personal protective equipment. Most of our members are saving with their lives and healthy. We have the sanitation department in the water sector, which is very critical, and attention needs to be paid to. But we wouldn't want to take a position where we take the media to see how some of our members are working in the water in the sanitation department without proper personal protective equipment. That's a requirement. So as a union, we are lobbying the government's intervention into the water sector to see that the issues that have been raised here are addressed. If we pay much attention and invest into the water sector and support the water sector, the issues of cholera will not be an issue. We know there are issues of hygiene, but these are waterborne diseases and infections. The water sector is playing an instrumental role. So we need to pay attention to the issue of water supply, access to clean and safe water. Then we'll not talk about cholera. So we'll be discussing cholera every year, as long as the government, as long as the regulator, as long as other stakeholders are paying a blind eye or are viewing the water sector with political lenses. We support and we commend what the Minister of Water is doing, and as a stakeholder, we are very much willing to support. And we are not against NOASCO. We are against the regulations which NOASCO has found in force, and we are calling upon the government to review those regulations. They are not sustainable regulations. Nothing personal to do with NOASCO or the director of NOASCO or anything. We are looking at the regulations.
Mr. Chingwe, your concluding remarks.
Yes, I think everything has been said and done. My only appeal is to the powers that be, that they give us a listening here as a union. We interact with these institutions at the highest level. we know the competence of their various managements and all that. They can only go up to that much, but the rest should be done by government. Government, I think, through their regulator, should pay attention to the operations of these institutions, including going to the extent of checking on the competencies of these various managers that are managing these institutions. I thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Mayo, your conclusion, please.
In conclusion, I think I'll make a call to our members, the members of the OCIAO. I'll just encourage them to continue working hard as they have worked hard under these difficult circumstances. We as a union will support them as their mandate given to us is. Yeah, I think that's what I can say.
Mr. Mayowa, Mr. Chinga, and Mr. Mwari, I'd like to thank you very much for making an appearance on our program this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
We have been talking to Mr. Tauton Mayowa, who is the Deputy General Secretary, and Mr. Mofia Chingwe, who is the Treasurer General, and Mr. Moses Mwari, who is the Secretary General from the Zambia Water and Sanitation Engineering and Allied Workers Union, and we were discussing challenges that the water sector is faced with in Zambia. On that note, we come to the end of today's program. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow at the same time when we bring you another interesting program. On behalf of the entire production team, have a blessed afternoon.